Hello and welcome back to the Scoop with Coop. I'm of course Coop, and in today's video, of course, the literal day after I grade all of the head coach openings, Sean McDermott gets fired, so that increases it a little bit. That increases the number of openings. But on a more serious note, I've mentioned this in a previous, video when it's in regards to coaches being fired. You never want to see anyone lose their livelihood, right? And it's even more stunning when it's someone who is as successful as Sean McDermott has been. Because a lot of people, who've gotten into football recently always think of the Buffalo Bills as this powerhouse. When I got into football, the Buffalo Bills were a laughing stock. Because I believe it was 2 years after I started watching football was when they finally broke through and made the playoffs for the first time in 18 years under Sean McDermott. And I don't completely disagree with that decision to fire Sean McDermott because when you're in a situation and you have the talent of Josh Allen, I feel you need to be able to get over the hump, and they just haven't. It seemed like every single roadblock would manage to hit them and completely take them off the tracks and derail their season. But when you're looking at this strictly from a did we get better? I don't know. Because now they're going to have to wait until after the Super Bowl to interview coaches. And we've already seen the best coaches be in job interviews or already get hired. So you're already going to be at a disadvantage there. Then you also have to factor in you're gonna have to work with Brandon Beane, which you know what? Brandon Beane, did he draft Josh Allen? Yes. But for a team that is so close to being on the margins of cap availability, can you name me three players that are you if you're a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator, you are sweating in the middle of the night thinking, "Oh my goodness, we're going to have to play them." Because I can think of maybe and this is if I'm pushing it, two. The first one, James Cook, completely cool. The other one, the other true game changer is a left tackle, which, you know what? Left tackles are important, but you don't want a left tackle being one of your best players. You'd prefer it be at another position to where you could be like, on defense. What was Sean McDermott's specialty? But there's just not a lot of talent on this roster, and they are running out of money to spend because, quite honestly, whether or not this is unfair or harsh to say, no one wants to go to Buffalo, right? No one wants to go to Buffalo unless it's for the money. And if you're running low on that, it's going to be very, very difficult to recruit top free agents in free agency, and they haven't done that because they haven't had the money to do it. And just going back now to the strictly Sean McDermott side of things, did he have essentially a 100 to 50 win-loss record? Yes. But if you look in the playoffs, they've lost I believe, in the wild card or divisional round 4 out of the last 5 years with someone who, in my opinion, has had a top 15 peak of all time for a quarterback during that stretch. And yes, Josh Allen is a top 15 quarterback all time strictly based on peak. I don't want to hear it. He is better than Phillip Rivers. He's probably better than Big Ben, but we'll keep that to the side. And it's always been the defense that's been a letdown, and that's really Sean McDermott's specialty, right? Because even in a game where Josh Allen has all these turnovers, and maybe the goofiest turnover I've ever seen was at the end of the half, where I'm being so serious, I don't know what was going through his mind. He was going to lateral it to an offensive lineman underhanded, which is not normally anything that anyone ever conceives of doing, but he decided that's the approach to take, and he gave Denver 3 points. But even with all of that, the game went into overtime, right? And they just caught another tough break, and they gave up 33 points to lose. Honestly, if you go into Denver and you put up 30 points, that should be enough to win. Because at least in my philosophy, if you put up 7 points a quarter, give or take, so if you get to 28, you should win. And year after year, it just hasn't been that. Because since Josh Allen has become an absolute freak of nature on the football field, he has had one bad playoff. Just one. And they lost, right? And that was against the Bengals. But every other time, he is maybe the greatest postseason quarterback ever. I mean, and it's debatable between him or Mahomes. I mean, I know that sounds like, oh, Mahomes has all these rings. I implore you to watch Josh Allen when he plays the Chiefs, because he will make some of the greatest plays that you have ever seen, and they all go to waste. And I think part of that falls back on McDermott, because you know what? The defense has never performed well, and even when they've performed okay, it just so happened to come on the worst night of Josh Allen's playoff career. So I think that plays a factor in it. I also think that Brandon Beane, since he immediately got promoted right after firing him, I feel like that plays a factor, and you have a situation that's kind of similar to that San Francisco team with Jim Harbaugh in the early 2010s, where it's like you're getting so close year after year after year, and then there becomes start of a fracture between whether or not how much success goes to the owner slash GM and how much goes to the coach. I think that is very similar, and especially when you have Terry Pegula, which he's not exactly a successful owner by any means, but you know, I think that there was a real breaking point, and I think that obviously was reached. And also, when you saw the emotions of all of the Bills players crying after the game, you knew that some type of change was going to happen. I thought it would be Brandon Beane, because I feel like he just, quite honestly, has not been as good at his job as you would have liked. And I think him getting promoted is the wrong decision. I thought that there were three possibilities that were going to happen. They're both fired, and that would be one. You fire McDermott, and then you just completely keep McDermott and fire Brandon Beane. I believe I went over that, but I thought there'd be no way that he would still be on this team, let alone getting promoted. This isn't like you know what, you have really done very well, so you know what, we're going to give you a promotion because you've earned it. I don't think that's the case. In my view, he is ruined and not taking advantage of a top 15 peak of all time at the most important position in sports, and has squandered the perfect opportunity by not getting a receiver. Because I want to play a little game here real quick. Outside of Stephon Diggs, can you name 5 Buffalo Bills receivers? Because I can. And I'll tell you who's just some of these names are. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Joshua Palmer. Actually a starter for this Bills team and was one of the big acquisitions. We're going to go Mecole Hardman, one of the big deadline gets. You know, he ran corn dog again, and it resulted in a touchdown, but, you know, nothing insane here. You got Khalil Shakir, which I think he's an underrated player, but you want him as a number 2 yak guy, not as much a we're going to stretch the field vertically with him. And then, you know what? Let's get a little bit deeper. I don't want to say Tyrell Shavers because, you know, just tore his ACL. We're going to go Gabe Davis. That's been maybe the best one that they've got in that stretch. If Gabe Davis is your if Gabriel Davis is your best receiver that you have had over the last, how many years has it been now? 3 or 4? You have a serious problem. And I think that there is a lot of issues in Buffalo, but I don't think that Sean McDermott was the biggest issue there. Do I think that Sean McDermott has done his job well in the playoffs? No. He's done his job perfectly fine. Honestly, if 0 is fire him and 10 is, oh my gosh, build him a statue, he's been a 5. He's been right in the middle. Not bad, but not great. And I feel like you can win with those type of coaches. They've made it to the AFC Championship game a couple times, and instead of when they have a quarterback on a younger roster, they decide just not to do that. And also, just going back to the Brandon Beane thing, I'm very all over the place because this is just a truly mind-numbing decision, because I don't think that this was the right decision. Honestly, if you want to get rid of him, okay. But Brandon Beane had to go and not promote him. And they made that decision poorly. And just looking at it another way, not only is Brandon Beane, who's not great at evaluating talent, going to be leading the head coaching search, but they're going to be behind on every single candidate. Because, funny enough, Buffalo won't be able to interview anybody that's not inside their own building pretty much, which I don't know why you would if you would fire the coach that's there. until after the Super Bowl. There are 3 weeks of teams who are awful getting to interview. Even the Baltimore Ravens, right? A team that I view is a playoff contender if they can get everything together and keep building. They are going to get a head coach. The Chiefs are going to bring back Eric Bieniemy because that's how things are trending right now, according to Schefter. So Mahomes is going to be back, right? Lamar is going to be back. Joe Burrow, I'm not a big fan of Zach Taylor, so I'm going to put that finger down. But the 2 big bads of the AFC are here, and you're going to be behind on the person in Josh Allen's ear. I don't get it. I don't understand this decision, and very few things irritate me as much as making the wrong decision when it's so clear that there is just a parasite growing in the city of Buffalo, and instead of eradicating that issue, that parasite points over and is like, you notice that rat? Or just whatever. Like, keep your focus on who the actual problem is, and that's Brandon Beane. Because actually, the person who first arrived between the two was Sean McDermott. So Brandon Beane probably never liked Sean, or at the very least, never wanted him to be the guy, and that's why he so quickly kicked him to the curb. And whenever you have players on your roster who are actively saying that this is, and I quote, BS, I'm gonna let you look that up and Google what that means. But when you have like defensive tackles, linemen, and everyone on the roster saying this is a horrible decision, what makes you think this is okay? You are the Buffalo Bills. You can't operate like this. You're not like you're the Los Angeles Lakers. You're not the Pittsburgh Steelers. You don't get to have that royalty building to where you think, you know what, I can do this because we can. You haven't earned that right. And I know that Sean McDermott isn't the greatest coach, but you don't want to be on the end of a bad coach. You really don't. If you want to talk about bad coaching, look at the Vegas Raiders and how they squandered a playoff team, right? It's just frustrating seeing the issues there and watching all-time talents get wasted. And it's unfortunate. I know Sean McDermott's going to get a head coaching gig. I would be absolutely flabbergasted if he doesn't. He's not going to be on the unemployment line for very long, but it's still just a very disheartening and sad thing to see. This is The Scoop with Coop, and until next time, hopefully, without as much of a angry rant.